Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming into another video. All right, so there's something going on around the league in these playoffs that's been going on forever. Ain't nothing new, but I figured I'd try to make a video to zero in on it. Since we don't have any playoff games today, figure I could just talk about this for now. Flopping. The NBA said they were going to do something about it. Whatever. Now, as I've mentioned before, in my mind, there are several kinds of flopping, including embellishing real fouls, for which I don't have a problem with. And what I mean by that is, if a guy hits me in my head and I jerk off of him and fall to the ground, I don't have a problem with that type of fouling. Why? Because the contact actually came. And what your job is as a professional for your team is to make sure that you sell that foul so that the referees are aware that you've been hit. It's not necessarily disingenuous. It looks disingenuous, but it's understood because the refs have so many different technical things that they have to keep their eyes on, that if you don't embellish that hit, they're probably not even going to realize that you got hit. You know, they're looking at people's feet, they're looking at the clock, they're looking at it. So if you make a demonstrative motion signaling that something is taking place, they can then whistle it, and that helps them do their job. Now, one could say, well, aren't they supposed to stay on top of that stuff? Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, this is part of it. This is how the NBA works, because you see it time and time again where guys will get hit, won't embellish, and they don't get the call. You know what I mean? You see it too often to get mad at them for doing that. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is when guys initiate the contact, or when guys step in front of guys 50 feet from the basket as they're inbounding the ball, flop to the floor upon contact, and they get called for a charge. No, you're impeding the progress of a person. They're nowhere near the basket. A charge, in my opinion, makes sense if they're making motions toward the basket. Then you're getting in the way of them getting a bucket. But if they ain't even cross half court line, why are you standing in front of them as they're dribbling the ball up the court and if not to play defense? You know, so I've seen that. A lot of times they'll give them the blocking call, but sometimes they'll plant their feet and they'll get the charge call. And I'm like, yo, just because he planted his feet, stepping in front of a person, does not mean that him doing so didn't impede the progress and was unnecessary for the defensive play. You see what I'm saying? It's like we're paying attention to them getting the motion right, but we're not paying attention to why the hell they're doing that in the first place. And so that's one of the issues I have. Another one is what we saw Chris Paul do many times, which is lock someone's arm and then pretend like it's his arm locked, which is not something he only does. Seen many people do that over the years. I don't like that. I think if you're going around intentionally trying to trick the referees, that's disingenuous and needs to be punished. That's not something we need to continue to move along with because they've made a demonstrative move and it allowed us to see that they've fouled. No, a foul was not supposed to be called. They're initiating that and they're being disingenuous. And so I think the NBA needs to differentiate and get a hold of that, get control of that. Because what I saw last night in that Phoenix game in the first half, Jay Crowder didn't do nothing but what it is I just described. He came in the game with the intention to flop. That was it. That's all he came to do. You know, like it was a good 3 minutes where it was nothing but him falling to the ground, initiating contact with offensive players. It's like, come on, man. You're not being fooled, referees. You're not being fooled. What you're doing is calling fouls that you should not call. And the NBA needs to disarm you from doing that by making the language such a way to where they punish people for that and punish refs for not punishing people for that. That's what needs to happen. So I just want to get on this camera and say that, man, because it's something that takes away from the game. You know, it's bad enough we have to stop and watch replays every 20 minutes that take away from the game for 20 minutes. I mean, you know, now we got to deal with that too. It's like, all right, that's not a good way to gauge who's a better basketball player. It's not. And if we're taking away from that, if we're taking away from how to gauge who's a better team, you might as well just fix the games. Just fix them all the way. Put magnets in the basketballs and on the roof. You know, where does it stop? You know, so that's what I wanted to come in and just say. And I'd like to see the NBA do something about it. I think it'll make for a better game. I think it'll make for more honest play on the defensive end. Because you're letting teams off the hook. That's what you do. You let guys who can't guard those guys get away with not being able to guard those guys by flopping all over the dang floor and initiating fouls. Yes, they're smart enough to do that, but they're not athletic enough to stay in front of that dude. So they have to do that. Don't let them off the hook. Nah. You're paying these people to be for what it is they're able to do. That's not something they're able to do. That's something they're taking advantage of because of what they're not able to do in a lot of cases. They're stealing your money. So I can see all of that very clearly, and that's one of the reasons why I look at it and say, yo, nah, stop that nonsense. Stop that nonsense. Get a hold of that. Punish those guys for taking advantage of these rules and make it so that the teams who are getting taken advantage of are given justice within the rule book. That's all I ask. That's what I'm saying. BDF 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.